Who's she?
I don't believe I know you.
Where's Josh? Where's Mom and Dad?
Have you guys ever wondered why some shows felt like other shows? Like Big Time Rush and Hannah Montana. Talked about a lot of Teennick and Disney Channel on this channel. And upon further digging and research and comparing and contrasting, I realized that the end of teen TV is near. What's up, everybody? It's Johnny2000, and I'm gonna do something I really like to do. I'm not sure if you guys saw my proof videos of the most rated shows and the least rated shows of Disney and Nickelodeon teen shows, but I want to take everything a little further. I like this experimenting of how a perfect teen show is made, and how so many shows have done it right, and some have just done it wrong. But let's take a step back even further, and instead of talking about teen shows, let's talk about the networks themselves. How many times did they repeat ideas? How many times did they do something unique? And how many times did they just copy and paste? Now, viewer discretion advised. Usually when I leave out shows I don't know super well, I get a lot of hate comments. But here's the thing, guys, I can only realistically say I'm an expert on so many things, and I can't say I'm an expert on these entire networks, because I delved really deep into these individual shows that I feel like made up the identity of the 2000s. And those shows are That's So Raven, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Hannah Montana, Sweet Life on Deck, Wizards of Waverly Place, Jonas, Sonny with a Chance, and Good Luck Charlie. These are Disney Channel's original shows, and those are what we're going to be looking at today. Now, for Nickelodeon, we have Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, Unfabulous, Drake and Josh, Zoey 101, iCarly, The Naked Brothers Band, True Jackson VP, Big Time Rush, and Victorious. So these are the shows that I think heavily represent everything that these networks were trying to do. Teen TV used to be diverse, experimental, character-driven, but over time, now it seems like all these shows were about fame, family, relationships. Really, it came down to only 3 unique things for each show. At first, something is new. It's exciting, it's different, it feels like nothing will ever be like it again. But then over time, as people become more aware, slowly migrates from new to modern. And then modern is like present day, like what it actually is. Then we further from modern to old. And old is when it's been enough time since history. And what's the funny thing about history? You don't really notice a lot of patterns until it becomes history. That's how I was able to determine that despite the fact we've had dozens of original, we only really had 3 shows on each channel. Now bear with me here, we're gonna dive deep into what I mean by only 3 shows. I know you're thinking like, Johnny, that's just plain incorrect. But really when we're talking about the uniqueness of these shows, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of unique ideas and premises and character takes on all of these ideas, but when you boil it down to its core concept, a lot of these shows are pretty similar. So Disney Channel and Nickelodeon actually had their own unique approach to these things. For example, Disney Channel had 3 types of shows. There's the Double Life show, where there's a character living both an alter ego and balancing it with their current identity. There's the Abnormal Family show, where it's an ensemble of family members in a unique situation. Then the Work Life show, where the show is kind of more like a workplace comedy, where the show is pretty simply broken up into the main character's life personally and then externally. And while Disney Channel maintained those, Nickelodeon took a completely different approach. Nickelodeon actually had something called the School Life show, where it was half school, half life, as opposed to Disney Channel that was more so half work, half life. There's the Fame show, where it's a person dealing with fame and their personal life, which is similar to the Disney Channel's Identity show, but a lot more about the reflecting culture. Then we have the Ensemble show, the shows that are really focused on a multitude of characters, never really following one specific lead, but more so, you know, the entire environment and what's going on. So what made these 2 types of shows so different? Even though both networks followed the same 3 formula, they all had a different approach to teen television. For example, Disney Channel built its brand on idealized teen experiences like clean, bright, and dreamlike, more scripted, theatrical, and exaggerated, and relying on slapstick catchphrases and musical stings. Their character arcs were a little more formulaic, with the status quo always reset by the end of the episode, and the larger-than-life personalities of Raven, Alex Russo, Miley Stewart, like, they are all consistent. Meanwhile, Nickelodeon aimed for more grittier, chaotic teen experiences, which could be very fun in a lot of ways, but definitely gives it an inherent difference in its core that you can almost feel when you're watching it. Like a Ned's Declassified and Unfabulous watch is so much more different than a That's So Raven and a Good Luck Charlie one, and you sometimes can't quite place your finger on it. Disney shows are usually more moral-driven, with every episode having a lesson. Even if it's subtle, it's still there with a moral at the end of it. And Nickelodeon's become more experimental, that end with lessons, but more sitcom-y on a joke. It's cool because Nickelodeon shows feel more grounded, more raw and honest that way, but also it's chaoticness that you're sensing. Just because Disney Channel is a lot more formulaic, planned, and prepped, doesn't mean it's not as good. If anything, that's what makes the Pixar movies good, the Disney Channel movies good. The idea that it's a really smart and compelling narrative that takes a teen's life very seriously. And whether that's not fun to take seriously, and you'd rather just joke like Nickelodeon, that's okay too. Disney Channel wasn't made to be so off the rails and honest about a teen's life. It's more about getting these lessons in. So the Double Life shows. No matter how many teen shows existed, they relied on these three unique concepts: double life, abnormal family, and a work social balance. They weren't just ideas, they were foundational structures that the networks refused to evolve beyond. At first glance, Hannah Montana, Wizards, and That's So Raven feel wildly different. Like one's a pop star, one's a wizard, and another's a psychic. But at their core, they all share the same DNA. The protagonist has a hidden identity that creates constant chaos. They live a normal life but struggle to balance their secret abilities or status, and the show's conflict always stems from hiding the secret or misusing it. Why it worked? I mean, for Disney, it gave the audience wish fulfillment. What if you had magic? What if you were famous? What if you had to juggle your own self with your true identity? Which is, at its core, a lot closer to real life than you think. It's like managing a social and emotional life at the same time. And that's why these shows are so good at identifying to its audience. While Wizards, Hannah, and That's So Raven are all similarly about the dual identity, they have one thing that makes them different from each other. Wizards of Waverly Place falls into the category of family. It's a double life show about family. Alex struggles being a normal teen while also being a wizard in training, and this tight-knit family that has to keep this secret. Hannah Montana isn't about family as much as it is about fame. Miley has to balance school with being a famous pop star, and the conflict comes a lot more between Miley and the world as opposed to the Russos, who have it between Alex and the family. While That's So Raven doesn't prioritize fame or family even, I would argue Raven is a lead character show. It's a character show focused on Raven, her psychic visions that force her to secretly navigate situations. I would argue it's not necessarily family because, unlike Wizards, it's focused on Raven's specific life experience, while the Russos kind of take up Wizards. Raven doesn't get fame from this, therefore fame is not a component of this show the same way Hannah Montana is, making it unique. Imagine 20 shows weren't made on either of these channels. Imagine just three. 3 shows over the course of their entire existence were famous shows, and only 3. If you could only keep one show in each of these categories to represent its overall show, what would that show be? Now, for the Double Life show, if only one had to survive, no surprise, I'm going with Hannah Montana. It was the most extreme version of all these concepts. The Double Life in Miley's world is just so realistic, it's relatable, it's just slightly above Wizards in the fact that you feel like you could have this dream, and it's not super far-fetched like the Russos or the Baxters. If you had to keep Wizards or That's So Raven is the question. What do you guys think? Would you keep Wizards or That's So Raven if we had to get a fantasy one in here? Then Disney has the Abnormal Family, which is every show being the same show. Family sitcoms were not unique to teen TV. I feel like a little bit of every show has something family related at its core, whether it's the main conflict or just a setting. It seems like the characters come usually from a family or a workplace setting. Shows like Life with Derek, Good Luck Charlie, and Jonas were really good at adding one small twist. Like Life with Derek is a blended family with rivalry-driven humor. Good Luck Charlie is about a baby as the central cast. And Jonas is a famous family pretending to fit in. The show is not actually about the family, but the kids' surrounding lives and friendships. And there's no real stakes. The abnormality never really disrupts anything. Now, there is one key difference between each of these Disney shows. So for the Abnormal Family show, we have the classic sitcom with a twist. It's always 4 or 5 characters that have to do with the family, and that's what's the glue of the show, but there's always something about it that's unconventional, maybe like not normal, I would say. For example, the lead show is Life with Derek. The abnormality is a blended family where the step-siblings hate each other. Kinda like the Brady Bunch gone dark. And Canadian? Then we have Good Luck Charlie, which is their family show. A traditional sitcom blending this new baby fitting into Teddy's life. And while Teddy is somewhat the lead, it could be done without her. It's more based around the characters of the baby as opposed to Life with Derek, which needs Casey to be the main character. If Life with Derek didn't have a main character, it wouldn't be a consistent show. But if Good Luck Charlie didn't have a main character, we'd still follow the Duncans really well. And then Jonas, which is the Fame one. You know, I didn't put it in the Double Life one because it's a kind of an outward secret that the Jonas Brothers are famous in their show. It doesn't have... A lot of the episodes don't really have to do with them keeping a secret. It more has to do with them balancing their life despite the fact that they're famous. Fame comes in between the family, in a way that Hannah Montana doesn't necessarily. All 3 of them focus on character dynamics, but each take the different approach, like the step-siblings, the traditional family, and the celebrity household. If only one of these shows had to survive, I'm definitely going to say Good Luck Charlie. Not only did it show success through its ratings and its long run, longer run than any of these shows, but it's relatable, well-written, and it's rewatchable. Probably the most rewatchable out of all of them. Jonas ended up being more like a celebrity cash grab, I would say, of a show, not necessarily trying to be unique. While Life with Derek was almost too grounded to a point where it felt like it was copying the Brady Bunch. Then we have the Work Life show, of course. For this, I have The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, which is focused on family itself. Half about Zack, Cody, and Carrie living in the hotel, and more so about the work life that Carrie goes through as an employee, and every other main character in the show has something to do with this hotel and takes a responsible part in it. It's the glue that keeps them together, and while Sweet Life of Zack and Cody is kind of a family show, it more leans into the work-life relationships. There's no such thing as an office comedy in its purest form in teen television because that's just not what teens go through. But in this show, the plot does derive from an occupation and job issues you would have, whether it's directly affecting the main characters or not. The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody prioritized family and then kind of had the hotel workplace as a backdrop for Cody and Zack's antics. The difference between that and The Sweet Life on Deck, The Sweet Life on Deck is an ensemble show, more so like a work comedy, where every character has something to do with the boat, and instead of having their family, Zack and Cody are surrounded by their peers, making it a lot more like Ned's Declassified, but it's less about being in the class and more about being in the work environment. Sonny with a Chance is about a small-town girl trying to fit in a TV star environment. It's not necessarily about the family, and it's not necessarily about the full ensemble. It's more so about the fame, and Sonny, if anything. Not only do we not see Sonny with her family, we don't usually see Sonny in her personal life. It's usually half about Sonny as the character, and then the other half about the workplace of So Random. And even though it's like fame-based, I would say it's more about work-life relationships than it is about keeping a secret or being affected directly by the fame. While they do have episodes addressing the fame, I think it's more so that workplace comedy, like 30 Rock would be versus Kimmy Schmidt, who is famous, but it's more so a lead show for that. Something that I noticed Disney doesn't do a lot is taking the school life as somebody's full-time job. And that's something that makes Ned's Declassified unique against any Disney Channel show, because it's the only show that takes place completely at a school, that commits to the idea that these kids are living their lives at school and the day ends with the bell. If only one of these shows had to survive, obviously it would be The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I mean, The Sweet Life on Deck definitely didn't seem like it was supposed to be this new, unique thing at all, and I feel like if we had to cover juggling between family and work, it does a little bit better than Sonny with a Chance, since there's no emotional connection with the families and the people. And Sonny with a Chance just overall was not as successful, so I can't really vouch for that. Now for the Nickelodeon 3 formulas. First, we have the School Life show. It's a classic school setting with a unique twist. There's 3 shows that take this identity of the Nickelodeon school show, and it's Ned's Declassified, of course, because it takes place completely in school, and all about Ned navigating all of his tips and advice that he needs to survive middle school. And since it's not really about family, because there's nobody there that he's related to, they're all kept together by these social events. Meanwhile, Unfabulous also is focused primarily on the school life, the drama that goes on between her and the characters because of school. School is essentially her priority in this show too. But she's the only one of these shows that doesn't live at the school throughout like the 20 minutes of the episodes. Then we have Zoey 101, which is obviously the lead character show. Isn't necessarily her family, it's her friends, and we're at school most of the time, but for the most part, it's following her specific journey in the school. Ned's Declassified is able to split it up between 3 main characters, but Zoey 101 is purely about Zoey. The School Life show is definitely unique, with 3 of these shows being very different, but this definitely feels like they come together in the same way. Only separated by its ensemble, its lead, and its family structure. They're fast-paced, and if only one had to survive, I definitely feel like it should have been Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. Not only do I love this show for its tips and its uplifting, non-cynical approach to being a teenager, but I also feel like Zoey 101 is just barely a fantasy, making the audience wish that they were in a dormitory. Ned's Declassified made school on its own work, while Zoey 101 leaned more towards character-driven stuff. So if any of these were to survive and represent the channel as the School Life show, I definitely think Ned's Declassified went really hard on committing to not only just being about half school, half characters, like they went all in on school and they went all in on the characters in a way that Unfabulous and Zoey 101 just almost got. But I feel like family and lead-driven stuff can deter the perfect story of a school life balance. But fame wasn't really a huge thing in the Nickelodeon world, except for these shows. The ones about success, popularity, and media culture. There's Big Time Rush, which is the ensemble show. The boys navigating fame as a group, not necessarily related. They're just buddies against the good and bad side of record labels, producing their own music, and growing up. iCarly was definitely the lead-based show, where even though it became a little more ensemble toward the end, it was focused on this one specific girl and her character goals to create a really good web show. And then everything was kind of like an offset of her and how she's trying to accomplish this. Big Time Rush was following Kendall Schmidt a little bit, but it definitely managed to give all the boys equal attention, not making it fair to call it a lead-driven show. And then the Naked Brothers Band is the only family one that I would say balances family and fame. iCarly was almost a family show following Carly and her brother, but it leaned so much toward Carly, I feel like it's fair to say it was the lead-driven show. The family show was definitely Naked Brothers Band. It's like Big Time Rush if the characters were closer, and it's like iCarly, it was more about a family instead of a single person. So each of these did a really unique thing, but if we had to catch one of them and only have Nickelodeon have produced one of them, I definitely think Big Time Rush and iCarly would be really hard to choose between. Like, if Naked Brothers Band wasn't so close to Big Time Rush, I would definitely separate them, but I feel like they're a little too similar in the sense that they are like big fame-driven shows about boy bands, and we only really can have one band show. But if we had to choose between a band show and a webcast show, I definitely think iCarly should have made that list. It's not uncommon to have a show about a singer, a songwriter, like, they do that on Disney. I really like iCarly in the sense that, like, it's not normal to want to be an influencer, but when you do, there's a lot of chaos and fun that goes into it, and I feel like overall it was just a unique show. And it took the Fame show concept that Nickelodeon did so well and almost brought it further to be more unique than Disney. Then we have, of course, the Ensemble show. I had a little bit of trouble finding what I would consider the workplace show or the lead show. I came down to a little bit of both. I would say the Ensemble show is a show that is completely about multiple characters, and it was brought down to two. There's work and family. There's True Jackson VP, which is the teen running a fashion company, which on its own is super unique, but definitely leans toward being a workplace comedy show. And I would argue that the other workplace comedy shows were school shows, because, you know, they're kids, they're teens, and unlike Disney Channel, they didn't find unique ways to integrate kids into the adults' lives as easily, but True Jackson VP did a great job at being that only Nickelodeon show that really did do that well. True Jackson VP is about a teenager running a fashion company. It's exciting. It's like almost that dual thing that Disney Channel did, but in a grounded workplace world. Like Sweet Life of Zack and Cody and Hannah Montana coming together. True Jackson VP was just revolutionary, and it was almost hard to put it into a category with these other shows. And that's exactly what I had an issue with also with Drake and Josh. Easily a family show. And it's definitely fair to put it in as an ensemble show because while it started out about being two brothers, it really thrived when it was about this community of people. When it had the premiere, when it had, you know, Josh's boss, Drake's teacher, like it needed all of these people to become the show it is today and eventually be successful. And I couldn't choose which one to survive. If anything, it feels like Nickelodeon did a great job at creating more diverse and unique plot lines for shows, like teen shows, grounded but couldn't necessarily go as far as Fame. While Disney Channel kept that dreamy-like aesthetic and grounded morals, the perfect porcelain example of what television should be. It was almost a little pandering to create a show for kids that works for teens as opposed to Nickelodeon making a really good sitcom and then fitting it to teens. It's a completely different approach, but it made both of these channels have their own unique shows. But when it really comes down to it, I don't know if you guys agree with me. After hearing about all of this, what do you guys think? Do you feel like it's clear that there are only 3 real Disney Channel shows with 3 real unique approaches to them? Would Disney Channel have been good if it only had Hannah Montana, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and Good Luck Charlie? I don't think it would have been good, but I do think it would have been the perfect representation of everything they did. I definitely think we'd be missing out on a lot of really unique things, but that doesn't mean we wouldn't be getting everything that we got out of these 20 produced shows in 3. Nickelodeon, if we only had Ned's Declassified, iCarly, Drake and Josh, and True Jackson, would you feel like we accomplished everything as Nickelodeon? It's weird, but I kinda do, and that's how you know that these fits worked the way they did. I mean, Nickelodeon and Disney Channel are networks, and they have obligations to get popular shows out on the air. And obviously, if something works, if a theme is going well, if a genre of show is doing phenomenal, why would you risk doing a completely new one when there's such a good premise right there? And it did show over time that we didn't notice, you know, like until 10 years later, did we realize the similarities between That's So Raven, Hannah Montana, and Wizards of Waverly Place? No. But it's awesome that we got all these different subsections of them. But it is weird to think about. If you look back, they only really took 3 unique approaches. 3 additional attempts at a theme, without going too much further than that. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Oh wait, it was Drake and Josh. The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody and Drake and Josh are 2 completely iconic shows. Everybody loved both of them, and while some liked more than others, it was hard to deny how good they both were. But we'll dive into that in a minute. I want to talk about this ongoing feud of which show is better, The Suite Life or Drake and Josh, and how similar are they really? On the surface, I thought that they were really similar, down to the personality, down to the plot lines, but upon doing some more research, I realized that these are almost completely opposite shows. They take the same concepts and the same characters, but do it completely separately. And I'm sure you guys have thought about this before. But you know what? I want to break it down in an organized way. So let's get into everything that makes Drake and Josh and Suite Life of Zack and Cody completely unique. What's up, everybody? It's Johnny 2000 coming at you with 2000s media from TV, movies, video games, and so much more. Okay, before we compare these legendary duos, let's talk about how their shows kind of came to be. Drake and Josh came out in 2004 from Nickelodeon, coming from the mind of Dan Schneider, who already built a reputation for the hit teen sitcoms like All That and The Amanda Show. It was kind of a spin-off of sorts, taking two standout actors, Drake Bell and Josh Peck, created a new series around their chemistry. It was already known for its wacky, over-the-top humor, and Drake and Josh kind of fit right into the mold, focusing on slapstick comedy, exaggerated reactions, and unpredictable situations. Now, if we're talking about actual airing, which we're not, Drake and Josh premiered on Nickelodeon January 11th, so it's a Capricorn. Meanwhile, The Suite Life of Zack and Cody debuted later on Disney Channel, March 18th, 2005. Nickelodeon had already established itself as this dominant force in live-action sitcoms. Disney was expanding on its own original sitcom lineup, already having Lizzie McGuire and Even Stevens. Suite Life was just like a new air, like a luxurious hotel that leaned into Disney's mixture of wholesome, family-friendly humor and situational comedy. Unlike Drake and Josh, which was more about step brothers adjusting into this new family, Suite Life kind of focused on the twin brothers navigating the world of high society and constantly testing the patience of the adults around them, which is a major difference. One key difference between the two duos is the age range in which they played their roles. When Drake and Josh started in 2004, Drake Bell was 17 and Josh was also 17. But by the time the show ended in 2007, they were both 20. They both played teenage stepbrothers, but their age difference allowed them to mature on the show, making later seasons feel more like a transition into young adulthood. Meanwhile, The Suite Life of Zack and Cody started in 2005 at just 12 years old, and the show ended in 2008, ending them at 15 when it wrapped. They continued their characters into The Suite Life on deck, but that's still not the show we're counting. This means that Zack and Cody's characters felt more youthful and mischievous compared to Drake and Josh, who were navigating more teen to young adult issues by the end of their show. And Zack and Cody were just barely hitting high school. Zack and Drake are pretty similar in that they both love adventure, taking risks, and rely on their charm to get out of trouble. They're natural troublemakers and like to bend the rules. But there is a key difference. I think Zack is mischievous and thrives on pranks, but Drake is focused on having fun and focusing on his music career, and he's just kind of more ignorant than anything. Zack is a troublemaker because he enjoys it, and Drake is more carefree and doesn't necessarily seek out trouble, letting things come to him. Meanwhile, Cody and Josh might both be the smart ones in their duos, but they go about it in like completely different ways. Like Cody is calm, logical, and methodical. He enjoys learning and is usually pretty level-headed. Josh, on the other hand, is more expressive. He also tends to let his emotions take the wheel. He could be like loud. He has like a bit of a wacky side more than Cody ever could. And Cody is naturally intelligent and curious. But Josh, has to work extra hard to prove himself. Nobody really understands Josh's worth. He usually gets the short end of the stick. And I don't see people treating Cody as terribly as people treat Josh when we compare the two. I feel like that's also the difference with the network. Teennick is very cynical and likes to poke fun at people's personality traits. They focus on a lot more of the rebellious nature of these teen sitcoms, while The Suite Life is focusing more on the camaraderie of the characters and kind of having them get through things. Like, you'll never see a Suite Life of Zack and Cody episode end on them in an argument or something not being resolved, or such as a Teennick show would be, you know? Unlike the structured environment of the Tipton Hotel, Drake and Josh's world is kind of more unpredictable, and despite that they had the premiere and all of their central locations. Theirs were more spontaneous and absurd in a less grounded way. Another key difference is the supporting character that shaped the duos. Like, in The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, they are surrounded by a structured yet wacky hotel staff. Mr. Mosby acted as a strict but caring mentor, and London Tipton has this spoiled heiress with comedic contrast. Their world was controlled entirely by the twins, constantly pushing them beyond the limits of authority. Meanwhile, Drake and Josh, the stepbrothers, had to deal with Megan, their devious younger sister that served more as an antagonist, as opposed to just specifically like Mr. Mosby, for example. Something that makes them really different is their female leads. Like, for example, Drake and Josh have Megan, which is the cynical prank master, like she just wants to see the worst for Drake and Josh. While The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody have Maddie and London. Maddie is super caring and understanding, and London is shallow and selfish, which definitely make the shows very unique to what they're about. Like, Drake and Josh is more of like a family show, and you could see The Sweet Life leaning into more of a workplace comedy that Zack and Cody happen to live in. Another big difference between these shows is how the adults played a role in the main characters' lives. In Drake and Josh, we have Walter and Audrey, who are two married parents navigating their blended family. Walter's the quirky and clueless weatherman, often the butt of the jokes, and Audrey is the more level-headed parent who tried and failed to keep things in order. Their dynamic as a married couple added an extra layer to the show, showing the struggles of raising two completely different stepbrothers under one roof. In The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, things were definitely different. The twins were raised by a single mother, Carrie, who worked as a lounge singer at the Tipton Hotel, and unlike Walter and Audrey, who had each other to lean on, Carrie has to juggle parenting and managing her career. This often made her the more grounded and responsible figure compared to the goofy antics of the step-parents in Drake and Josh. And Mr. Mosby can easily be compared as the fatherly mentor that gets very frustrated as Walter would be, but Mr. Mosby is frustrated and level-headed. And Carrie was a lot more responsible and able to balance Zack and Cody's wild energy as herself, as opposed to the duo of Walter and Audrey, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Romantic relationships were also a major part of both shows, but they were handled very differently. Drake was a ladies' man, constantly dating girls throughout the series. His confidence, charm, made him popular, and his relationships were often short-lived and comedic, never having a long-term girlfriend. Josh, on the other hand, had a more meaningful arc with Mindy, his competitive and intelligent girlfriend. Their relationship developed over time, showing growth and emotional depth that contrasted Drake's carefree style. Sweet Life definitely played out differently due to the characters' younger ages. So Zack had this ongoing crush on one of the other main characters, which was a completely different dynamic, the candy counter girl, obviously, and his attempts to win her over were a reoccurring comedic element. Cody, meanwhile, had more stable romantic storylines with Bailey and The Sweet Life on deck, and while his relationships were more serious and heartfelt, definitely very similar to Drake and Josh's. Like, how could you be in such vastly different ages and have such similar dating experiences? I'm just so curious. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Yes, the thing that we all think about but never talk about, the success of the movies. So let's talk about Drake and Josh, specifically Go Hollywood, because I know they had a lot of TV movies. They had Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh, but let's count Drake and Josh Go Hollywood and the Sweet Life movie. So both duos took their adventures beyond the TV screen into their own movies, and while Drake and Josh did it a lot more frequently than the Sweet Life did, it's really interesting how they compared. Like, Drake and Josh Go Hollywood saw the brothers accidentally sending Megan on a flight to LA, leading to a wild, action-packed adventure involving mistaken identities and an international crime ring. The film expanded on the show's humor and high-energy chaos, taking away the laugh track and making it feel like a really good feature film event. Meanwhile, the Sweet Life movie took a different approach. Zack and Cody were a part of some futuristic scientific experiment that linked to their minds, leading into intense twin telepathy and secret agent-like mission. Unlike the Drake and Josh movie that stayed grounded in comedy and real-world antics, The Sweet Life embraced a more sci-fi and adventurous theme, pushing the twins into an unfamiliar and dramatic storyline. And trust me, if we had to put them together, I definitely think the Sweet Life movie stunk. And whether or not I thought the Drake and Josh movies were good, it's just the Sweet Life movie stunk. And that's all I have to really say on the subject. Overall, these shows are so much more different than I gave it credit for. From the surrounding characters, the movies, to even the age difference. I never realized the uniqueness that separates these two shows. I sometimes wonder myself which one is necessarily funnier, and I even have trouble doing that. Because they're in such vastly different categories, it's almost like harder to compare them. But now that we did, I'm kind of curious what you guys think. Did your opinion change? Did you think Drake and Josh was the best show? Did you think Sweet Life of Zack and Cody was actually better? And I want to know all your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm so happy with all the progress my channel has made in the past couple weeks, and I'm hopeful that you guys will stick with me on my journey through the 2000s. Until next time, this is Johnny 2000 focusing on the 2000s TV, media, video games, and so much more. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. 2 legendary sitcoms, 2 legendary casts, but only one question. Was Sonny with a Chance actually better than Victorious? Well, since I'm making this video, I have the power to say yes. Both shows centered around a young, aspiring entertainer trying to make it big. But their execution was wildly different. So today we're going to be breaking it all down. Characters, comedy, music, and lasting impact to finally settle the debate that you guys probably already have an opinion about. What's up, everybody? It's Johnny 2000 here talking about nostalgia from TV, movies, video games, and so much more. So today I'm talking about a really fun topic: Sonny with a Chance versus Victorious.
We gotta get back to the wizard world.
Okay, so let's start with how these shows came to be. Sonny with a Chance premiered in 2009 on Disney Channel, starring Demi Lovato as Sonny Monroe, a small-town girl who lands a dream role on So Random. This is a fictional comedy show with sketches, and it was Disney's take on the behind-the-scenes world of TV production, packed with TV humor, rivalries, and showbiz drama. Meanwhile, Nickelodeon had Victorious in 2010, another Dan Schneider show. It was Victoria Justice as Tori Vega, who was a regular high schooler who suddenly finds herself in an elite performing arts school, Hollywood Arts. And unlike Sonny with a Chance, Victorious leaned heavily into the music, the performance-based comedy, and teen drama, showcasing original songs and musical numbers. And while Sonny with a Chance did that, they just didn't really lean in it that much. Let's talk about Sonny Monroe versus Tori Vega. So they were both newcomers throughout this elite entertainment world, but their personalities couldn't be more different. So Sonny was played by Demi Lovato, energetic, ambitious, and always looking for ways to improve So Random, the show that they did, and to prove herself as a comedian. Her optimism made her the odd one out, and especially against her diva-like rival, Tawny Hart. Tori, played by Victoria Justice, had a different struggle. She wasn't just proving herself as an actress, but also as a singer and performer. Unlike Sonny, who had clear comedic skills, Tori's biggest strength was her adaptability, often finding herself thrown into ridiculous situations and forced to perform on set. But I was always a Sonny with a Chance fan. Maybe as somebody who really likes comedy, it was more relevant to me, and Sonny Monroe was just, I guess, a really quirky, funny character, and I feel like Tori Vega wasn't as funny in my opinion. So Sonny had Tawny, and Tori had Jade. Both shows had strong supporting characters, but the way they were used was completely different. Tawny was a little ditzy, self-centered, yet a hard worker. She never would side with Sonny, but she would never necessarily be against her, kind of like Jade. Jade is a little sadistic, conniving, and she has a lot of weapons in that series. And I think she's admitted to straightforward having it out for Tori, which is a lot more scary than Tawny. I feel like Jade is definitely funnier because her jokes are just so outlandish, but Tawny is a lot more realistic and actually likable, so I'm having trouble deciding which one I would rather watch. Now let's talk about the communities in each show. In Sonny with a Chance, the supporting cast were all part of So Random. So they were sketch comedians first, characters second. There was a group dynamic and needing to work together in order to get stuff done. There's Tawny, Nico, Grady, and Zora. They were like a weird, but they were hilarious. Their humor revolved around slapstick, over-the-top sketches, and showbiz satire. And in Victorious, we have the side characters with their own artistic talents, like Andre, who was a songwriter and musician, Robbie, the ventriloquist, Jade, the goth actress, and Kat, who was like the lovable but clueless singer. Oh, and Beck, who was a really cool actor. The comedy came from their contrasting personalities rather than the outright sketch comedy, and the show focused more on the high school drama than actual performances. And it's interesting because in Tori's world, it's almost as if they're pitted together to each establish their own individual careers, making it more of independence versus one another, while Sonny with a Chance was more focused on the group camaraderie. And Disney was just doing such a good job at making characters more genuine and making the intentions of them make a lot of sense, while Victorious's third and fourth season really went off the rails in terms of plot structure. And while Demi Lovato left after the second season, it's fair to say they had pretty close to the same amount of episodes. Like Sonny with a Chance had 47, and I think Victorious had somewhere around this number, I guess. But which show was actually funnier? Humor-wise, Sonny with a Chance leaned into Disney Channel's exaggerated slapstick style, and Victorious had a more sarcastic and absurdist, sometimes even meta sense of humor. Sonny with a Chance had full-on sketches within the show, like a mini SNL for kids, and Victorious relied on quirky one-liners, awkward, often cringe-worthy interactions between its characters, and just a lot more cynicism. If you like more grounded but somewhat over-the-top humor, Sonny with a Chance was definitely your show, but if you're more sarcastic and have a more twisted mind, definitely Victorious delivered for you. I feel like my favorite episode of Victorious is the season 1 episode where they make the movie at Hollywood Arts based on their lives. I don't know why. A film by Del Squires, that's what it's called. It's really funny, and I love it when TV shows make a show about making a film. They just did it on Ed, Edd n Eddy, and I love that concept. Just because it's funny watching people be fake, I guess. Meanwhile, Sonny with a Chance, I loved Falling for the Fall, Sonny with a Secret. I just have a countless favorites. Then let's talk about the music. One of the biggest differences between these shows. So Victorious was designed around musical performances, performing the songs like Freak the Freak Out, Begging on Your Knees, Take a Hint, which I hate, giving the show a built-in pop star appeal. On the other hand, Sonny with a Chance was not music-focused, and although Demi Lovato was powerhouse singer, the show itself never really revolved around music the way Victorious did. We saw a lot of really great musical numbers in the second season, but it felt a little shoehorned in. Me, Myself, and Time by Demi Lovato was a great song, but not really relevant to a sketch comedy show. And same thing with Walk a Mile in My Pants, and a lot of the songs in the second season. Actually, those did really well because they were more comedic songs, so they were somehow good songs and funny at the same time. And I mean, while Victorious was that way, Victorious was more focused on being a good song, and I kind of prefer the comedic approach to it. I think it's definitely a lot stronger. But let's talk about some of the relationships on this show. So Sonny's love story was mostly focused on Chad Dylan Cooper, who was this egotistical yet charming actor from the rival show Mackenzie Falls. They had a love-hate chemistry, and that was the highlight, making their relationship one of Disney's more memorable pairings. In Victorious, that was kind of a romantic mess. Tori had multiple almost relationships, including one that interfered with Jaden Beck, which added a really complicated factor to it, almost one where the audience is questioning the morals of the main character a little too much and distracting away from the main plot of the show. And I really appreciate that Sonny with a Chance's romances actually coincided with their goals as characters, while Victorious's felt like high school drama and performing drama, but not necessarily coincided in every instance. Unlike Sonny with a Chance, Victorious never really committed to a strong central romance, which kind of frustrated a lot of fans. But also, somebody like me, I don't really care about that stuff, and yet I do admit Sonny with a Chance did it a little bit better. We could also talk about the way they ended. It's really interesting because Victorious got extended for a quote-unquote 4th, 5th season, but it's listed weird on the Paramount Plus stuff. Meanwhile, Demi Lovato left Sonny with a Chance after the second season, but they did have a lot more episodes up until that point. Let's not talk about how the third season was kind of a downfall when it came to the quality. But you know what? I would argue that Victorious's quality went down after the first season, and they kind of dropped the entire Hollywood Arts. And they kind of dropped, Tori's attainable goals and just made it more of an ensemble show, while Sonny with a Chance always stuck to this lead with the goal to be famous. And you could see that through the entirety of the show. But let's think about which show left a bigger legacy. Which show was better? And if you wanted a fun sketch comedy-driven show, sure, that's definitely a really good chance to watch Sonny with a Chance because of its behind-the-scenes showbiz moments, SNL-style comedy sketches. But if you were looking for a music-driven performing arts high school experience, that's definitely Victorious and the way to go with that. Either way, if you're somebody who is inspired by the arts or care about music and fulfilling a dream, both of these shows will scratch that itch, and it doesn't really matter which way it goes. This is all my opinion, so I kind of want to hear what is going on with you guys. Which one did you grow up watching more, Sonny with a Chance or Victorious? As I'm making these videos, I'm attempting to be as perfect and yet flawed as a normal conversation with anyone would be. So I won't always get my facts straight. I'm more going to be doing it in a conversational way, because I love talking to you guys about teen media. I love talking about Cartoon Network and so much more. So please keep up watching these videos. I appreciate you guys so much. And tell me what you want to see next, because I would love to do anything. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Johnny 2000, and I will talk to you guys soon. Remember that trope in teen shows where the main character falls in love with one of their close friends? It's all too common. Not only are Nickelodeon and Disney Channel different with their live-action sitcoms, they're even different the way they approach relationships, especially in their teen shows. And I want to break down the most infamous couples on the most popular shows on both channels. Yes, it's exactly who you're thinking. iCarly with Sam and Freddy, and Hannah Montana with Lily and Oliver. It wasn't until I started making these retrospectives that I realized how closely Hannah Montana and iCarly coincided, but I was missing something that was right in front of me: the relationships. Both of these shows had their main friend group's characters fall in love. They managed to make it so different, but the same at the same time. What's up, everybody? It's Johnny 2000, covering all 2000s media, from movie, TV, video games, and so much more. On Hannah Montana, Lily is Miley's best friend. She's a girly girl, but also a skater girl. Oliver is a feminine goofball that just happens to fit in with the group. Meanwhile, on iCarly, we have Sam, who is this aggressive jokester, and Freddy, the guy who's just trying to fit in the friend group. So I wanted to take the two most pivotal episodes where we kind of see the couples at their peaks and kind of compare and contrast their relationships. We got Hannah Montana's What I Don't Like About You and iCarly's I Date Sam and Freddy. Let's break down the two episodes and kind of talk about it. Let's start with iCarly. So iCarly starts with Sam and Freddy in an argument. This newly together couple are trying to figure out how to get along. One is super aggressive and one is super passive. So obviously that's the first argument. Sam apparently is standing up to his mom for him, and he's basically like, you don't have to do that.
Sam, Freddy should be able to complain about people to you without worrying that you're going to put them in a hospital.
I guess.
And Freddy, even though it's a little extreme to violate a man with bees, you should at least appreciate that Sam did it because she cares about you.
The two had a lot of tension as friends, and it seems like they didn't change their characters at all to fit the relationship, which I kind of like. I like that they are true to themselves as characters, but that also shows that they really haven't grown at all, and that's something that concerns me. At least Oliver and Lily had their relationship impact them a little bit more. There's a B-plot where Spencer is apparently cutting grass that he put in the house, which is nuts at this point. And Gibby is trying to establish a B-plot with Carly by getting a puppy.
Why'd you call me his mommy?
Well, you know, Sam and Freddy are always hanging out together now.
Yeah?
And that means you and I are gonna have more time. Just the two of us.
Yeah?
So I figure sharing a dog will give us something to talk about.
No.
Meanwhile, Freddy and Sam keep coming at Carly with a new problem.
Pay the man. No! What cup is worth $36? That's Jamaican plastic. Forget it. I can't believe you're being so cheap.
They even go as far as to wake her up in the middle of the night to settle a dispute between the two. Which is kind of like me and YouTube. YouTube, I'm always settling disputes. The next day, they're ready to film iCarly, and Freddy and Sam are actually in a good mood. It's positive at first, then live on the web show, they have a disagreement.
I thought we were doing the blue butt bit first.
No, we decided to do the adult diaper bit first.
You never think I'm right.
You never respect my opinion.
Which is super funny. It's like the internet culture of seeing a little bit too much, which is kind of fun. I like that it interrupts the web show. It shows that it's such a problem that it actually bleeds into her real life, which the Hannah Montana episode doesn't really do. So Freddy and Sam actually attempt to go on a date themselves, but they bring Carly and have her sit at the back of the restaurant.
Freddy, it's not nice to judge other people's cheese habits. Sam, that's an insane amount of cheese. It embarrasses me.
She has a bad time, people start coming up to her. And eventually they argue once again. It's really clear that this is not gonna work. Like, they argue so much, it's like not healthy. Like, these people shouldn't need an outside party in order to date. Like, that's ridiculous.
Seriously, why don't you two just pick up your forks and use them to jab each other in the eyes?
And this is a lot more extreme than the Hannah Montana one, I would say. The lengths they go to insult each other, and it only takes Carly yelling at them and standing up to them for them to finally realize that maybe it's a little too much.
I deserve this lasagna.
The episode ends there, and the relationship kind of goes on past this episode, but I do feel like this is primarily the episode in which was copied to the Hannah Montana one. Now let's switch to Hannah Montana for a second. So we start the episode with Hannah Montana coming back from her newest movie, Indiana Jones, and it's this really obvious parody of Indiana Jones, but it's funny watching her outtakes. Miley's returning home from this long vacation, hoping that nothing's changed, only to leave the room and see that Lily and Oliver kiss. Oh my gosh, what? We jump into hearing them talk about why they need to keep it a secret from her and that she wouldn't really understand right away, and Oliver has a couple funny lines here.
Sometimes I could say things like, "Ooh, doesn't Lily look cute today?" And, another time you could be like, "Wow, I've never really noticed it, but Oliver looks like a Greek god," or...
Miley confronts them at the beach, saying that she knows what happened because obviously it was in their living room.
You guys should date, and then not tell me about it.
I think she knows.
And they pretty much admit to it right away. See, this is where it's a little bit different than iCarly. Like, iCarly happened over the course of a couple episodes, but Miley found out they're together, already are approaching them about it, and this actually leads into the disagreement.
So seriously, you think Radiohead is better than Coldplay?
Radio play, cold head. The main thing is, you guys are together.
It doesn't seem like they as a couple argue or disagree too much. It's almost like this is one really specific scenario. And in this scenario, basically they argue over Radiohead versus Coldplay, like which song did they dance to, which leads to them arguing about their first date and even more.
If you like Coldplay so much, they should be your girlfriend. You could take them skating and then
Take them skating and not remember it. You know what? Who's 12 now?
And they even break up pretty much right then and there on the beach, which this is what should have happened with Freddy and Sam. Like, theirs is so dysfunctional, it's almost like distasteful. Like, you feel guilty for watching them be together and happy about it. Where at least Lily and Oliver, you're like, okay, I could see why they should be together.
Because you're obviously wrong.
I'll tell you what's wrong. When I picked you as a boyfriend.
Oh.
You guys, please stop fighting. This is ridiculous.
Miley is insisting that if they're going to argue, they better come back to her by the time they're done. So she sits on the beach until midnight. Robbie actually even gives her a blanket because that's how long she's been there. Throughout the episode, she constantly asks Robbie for advice through metaphor of his sandwich.
And the tomato decided that they should be together. Oh, I love you, bacon pop. Yes, I love you too, tomato pop. They start arguing. Oh, bacon, the lettuce. I'm the lettuce. I get in the middle.
And keeps destroying it every chance she gets. And this is the part that's the most like iCarly. So Lily and Oliver are sitting on separate tables at the beach, insisting Miley chooses them as her best friend. She goes to Lily first and says that she chose her, but should probably apologize to Oliver because he deserves at least that. Then she goes to Oliver and says that she chose him and was just apologizing to her about it because she deserves that.
You really did pick me, over your best girlfriend? Must be awesome.
So she basically told both of them that she's choosing them over one another. Meanwhile, the subplot is Jackson trying to get into college. He wants to go to Santa Barbara, so he has this interview that's about to happen at the house. So to look really good, he tries to make it look like he started a nonprofit for children, which is very specific. I would kind of believe that. Cheryl Hines is a guest star in this episode, and she comes to interview Jackson. Robbie has a guilt talk with him to make sure that he doesn't actually go through with it, and it works. Jackson admits to the woman that he's been lying about all his good deeds, and she's basically like, yeah, you're not getting into college. Like, you expect them to be like, okay, yeah, you're honest, you could definitely do it, but that didn't happen in this one. Later, she asks Oliver to come over, and we're still not really sure what her plan is, until they both show up into Miley's house.
What are you doing here? She chose me, Miley.
She's dressed as Indiana Jones, and I'm uncomfortable. So she plays a video with her playing both of these parts, Lily and Oliver, and showing their argument and why it was like so petty.
Yeah, her hair smelled like apples. I like apple.
And it's really disturbing to see Miley in these parts. Like, one, as a blonde, that's not Hannah, and two, as Oliver. Don't need to say more than that. This
allows them to realize how stupid they've been acting and how important their friendship and relationship is, so they get back together. Unlike Carly's that ended up in a big blowout and her leaving the restaurant with no resolve.
I'm sorry.
Me too.
I missed you, Lollipop.
I missed you too, Lily Pop.
There's tension in both of the friend groups, with Lily and Oliver commonly disagreeing, getting into arguments, that brother-sister dynamic, and I definitely see that in iCarly with Freddy and Sam. The only difference, Freddy and Sam would never make a good match, because as friends they are so unhealthy. Unlike Hannah Montana, where at least they usually come to a resolution and it's not just one bullying the other. It's similar in the sense that she does shame them, like Carly's basically like, well then you shouldn't be dating at all, and then they realize they should be dating, which is kind of a lackluster ending for that one. Miley actually takes like a positive approach for it, which I think is a little bit more fair. But yeah, it's hard to deny that these episodes aren't super similar. The Hannah Montana episode was released on April 19th, 2009, with iCarly being 2 years later, September 10th, 2011. Therefore, we know who logically went first. We know who factually came first. But yeah, overall, I don't know why iCarly and Hannah Montana overlap so much. Maybe it's just the idea of popularity and fame coming into your social personal life as a teenager. And I guess already doing a teenager show, you're bound to overlap plots just in dating, miscommunications, fights with parents. So I guess it is inevitable that they cross over a lot. If anything, maybe they should have crossed over more, or made an official crossover. Oh, no. That would be breaking some cardinal sin that says networks can't cross over. But otherwise, like, what did you guys think? Does it feel like these are essentially borrowing the same plot, or are they different enough to make it fair? I personally think that they are different enough, and I just like comparing and contrasting them because it's like so uncanny that these two shows just happen to be doing the same exact plot. Isn't it so weird to think about the premises both being the main character as the third wheel to their best friend's relationship? And I love seeing how both characters deal with it completely differently. In I Date a Bad Boy, Carly was very shallow in getting over Griffin because of his Beanie Baby collection, while Miley developed a real crush and was just choosing between them. Here, they're given both the same scenario where their best friends are dating, and they both deal with it completely different. Miley comes from a more genuine place because it seems like she's focused on getting them to a healthier place, while Carly is just focused on trying to get them to not fight. Overall, while the iCarly episode is really funny, it doesn't have a resolution. Freddy and Sam seem to argue about everything, which is kind of the issue in their relationship. That makes it really hard to form a bond, while Lily and Oliver only really disagree on one thing, and that's what comes between them. You have a lot more hope for Lily and Oliver because once they get over this slump, it's going to be a while before they get another obstacle, while Freddy and Sam deal with obstacles all the time. And is that fun to deal with? Not really. Suddenly, Carly is not fixing their relationship for the sake of caring about her friends. She's fixing it for the inconveniences of the people around them. Also, Lily and Oliver date successfully throughout the rest of the series, having a lot of more important moments between each other. They overcome a lot of their disagreements and become stronger as a couple, while Sam and Freddy, spoiler alert, don't really last that long and continue to argue the rest of the time. But yeah, overall, they're both really funny episodes, but this is when iCarly starts to take a downturn in the quality of its show, while Hannah Montana is just getting better from here on out. So I think objectively, the Hannah Montana one does it a lot better. But what do you guys think? Do you ship Carly and Freddy more than Lily and Oliver? Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Johnny2000, and I will see you guys next. Okay, so 2 boy band sitcoms, 2 iconic groups for completely different reasons. But there's only one question. Was Big Time Rush actually better than Jonas? Let me just tell you right off the bat, the show, so much better. Big Time Rush lasted 4 seasons, while Jonas only lasted 2. And that's enough. I don't know what else more I need to say that not only the audience, the network, everybody seemed to agree that Big Time Rush was going somewhere. Jonas had one okay season where they were witty and quirky and going to school, and then one attempt at a rebrand in the season where they're in LA and in romance and dramatics. It didn't know what it wanted to be, and that's for sure. Nickelodeon and Disney Channel both took shots at blending music, comedy, and teenage stardom, but their approaches were like super different. So today, let's break down everything: the characters, music, humor, and lasting impact that Jonas and Big Time Rush attempted to fill on screen. What's up, everybody? It's Johnny 2000, covering all 2000s media, from movie, TV, video games, and so much more. Jonas had always been around before this show, so this show was kind of like an afterthought for their careers. Camp Rock was the one that really set them off in Disney Channel, but this show really took everything to the next level. Their music was great for a while, and despite the show's minimal efforts, it was always pretty good. Okay, let's start how we like to, with the origins. So Big Time Rush premiered on Nickelodeon 2009, created by Scott Fellows, that guy who did Ned's Declassified. The show followed 4 hockey players from Minnesota: Kendall, James, Carlos, and Logan, who unexpectedly get a chance to form a boy band and navigate the ups and downs of Hollywood. The series combined comedy, music, and behind-the-scenes looks at the entertainment industry. Kind of like a fish out of water, with 4 guys that aren't used to the LA scene adapting to its culture, which is always a really fun plot line. On the other hand, Jonas debuted on Disney Channel in 2009. It starred the already famous Jonas brothers, Kevin, Joe, and Nick, as fictionalized versions of themselves. It was always so hard to figure out how they connected to the real ones in the real world, like what was a part of their actual lives and what was just a part of the TV show. And since we didn't get to see them from their origins and they just get thrown into being pop stars, it's a little different. I didn't realize Disney Channel didn't like to do it that way. But Hannah Montana's like that. She's already a pop star when the series starts, so I guess that's just how they roll. It's about their normal life dealing with school, friendships, and everyday teenage issues. The music was a key component, and it actually had a lot of musical numbers that ended the plots of the episode. So they were really good at intertwining the plots and the music off the bat. And it was more of a sitcom. It was more focused on family than an industry-focused story like Big Time Rush. Now let's talk about the main characters. So in Big Time Rush, we got Kendall Knight, he's the natural leader. James Diamond, who's the pretty boy. Carlos, who is the fun-loving goofball. And Logan, who is the smart, cautious one. Meanwhile, the Jonas brothers have the charming and slightly clueless Joe, the serious and musically gifted perfectionist Nick, and the quirky, eccentric older brother Kevin. Now see, something about these characters are, since there's less in Jonas, it seems like they have more of a dual personality. Like, they take on more character traits than just the simple, the smart one, the dumb one. While Big Time Rush tends to fall into that more cartoony and broad definition. Real-life chemistry between the Jonas brothers was undeniable. Their scripted personas felt a little more exaggerated, which definitely was on tone with Big Time Rush. I don't know what it is about these boy band shows that they have to actually be over-the-top ridiculous, but I guess that's fine. Big Time Rush seemed to be script first, then the brothers' chemistry second, while Jonas is the other way around. The Jonas brothers' chemistry was the show, and the script didn't really need to come yet. And definitely shows in the qualities of these. Doesn't mean they didn't copy off of one another at one point, though. And then we have our surrounding cast. We have Gustavo Rock, who's loud and over-the-top record producer. His assistant, who was always the micromanager. Katie, Kendall's younger sister, who often was a mastermind and outsmarted adults. And on the Jonas side, they have Stella, who is the brother's best friend and stylist, which has a complicated friendship with Joe. Macy, who's the ultimate fangirl turned into best friend. And Tom, the boys' quirky dad, who manages their careers. So both shows are super unique in the way they surround their cast. And for some reason, I don't know how Big Time Rush juggles so many main characters. While Jonas had a fun and likable supporting cast, Big Time Rush's definitely felt more integral to the band's success and struggles, making their presence a little bit more impactful. A fan and a potential relationship always with the group allowed for a lot more interesting stories with Jonas. Unfortunately, it never could have been explored. Now let's talk about the music. So since both shows were centered around boy bands, obviously music was a big part of their appeal. Big Time Rush was designed to be a real band within the show. Big Time Rush was designed to be a real band within the show and in real life, with songs like Boyfriend, Worldwide, Till I Forget About You. They were like major hits and some of my favorites. The show definitely blended the performances to the storyline, and the music was just so natural. Jonas, on the other hand, featured music by already established Jonas Brother tracks, like LA Baby, Keep It Real, like things that they wrote for the show, but it was more so in their band's voice. Give Love a Try, that was a good song, I like that. It just felt a little bit separate from the plot. Or if it was coincided with the plot, it's a little cheesy, like that pizza song. I don't know what that was about. And I remember they had a couple episodes that were very similar, like Big Time School of Rock, that one where they have to balance fame and school. Like, literally, that's the same thing as Exam Jam from Jonas. And it's the brothers trying to pass finals while still maintaining their musical commitments. Then Big Time Fans and Macy's Day Parade. Those are the episodes which both focused around the fan behavior around the group. Big Time Rush has that obsessive fan, and obviously Macy knows the brothers, and her tendencies get out of control, but it is a little bit cooler because Macy's a main character as opposed to the fangirl the Big Time Rush one. Comedy and tone is really interesting. It's both of their strengths. For Big Time Rush, they had the wacky, chaotic humor that Nickelodeon was known for, the over-the-top personalities, boys' antics, and schemes just made for hilarious moments, while Jonas had a more lighthearted Disney-style humor with quirky family dynamics, awkward teen moments, like that's what they were about. And genuinely, I prefer the Big Time Rush on this account, unfortunately, for you guys. The relationships were interesting. Big Time Rush didn't really follow a super strong narrative when it came to the relationships, not like Jonas did. I mean, Jonas had the love interest just a part of the main group, the main cast. It's a lot harder to find a consistent love theme when there's so many characters you have to balance. So Joe definitely had the backseat story. And I definitely think Big Time Rush didn't keep the consistency that well. Like, while they were so good at being a boy band show, that definitely came at the cost of having those relationships really meaning something and carrying out. But Jonas, in its short time period, did a good job at that, kind of. So which show was better? I mean, there was never a question. I just thought it would be fun to talk about, compare and contrast as you will. But if you were looking for a show that took a boy band from nothing to a big famous dream and navigating all the ups and downs that come with the industry, Big Time Rush was definitely the clear winner. Its mix of comedy, music, and industry is so entertaining to watch, and it's just really well thought out. The characters are interesting, the entire ensemble makes the show feel like successful when they do well. But if you were already a Jonas Brothers fan and saw them come to the big screen, obviously this is going to be so much more nostalgic for you. This is probably your childhood. If you're a Disney kid and want to see a boy band show, this is definitely going to scratch that itch. I wish I could tell you you'd have a lot of episodes to use, but you wouldn't. And I don't know how the fans really think about this show, and I'm so curious how that tone gap between the first season and the second one really did for their fans. And if you like the Jonas Brothers, their over-the-top personalities, wacky situations would definitely have entertained you. But at the end of the day, both shows brought something really unique to the table, something really fun, and some good music to listen to while you're at it. But I would love to know which one is your guys' favorite, Jonas or Big Time Rush? Please let me know in the comments. I personally am a big Time Rush fan. Not only are they good on screen, but they're great performers, and their whole story really grabs me. Unlike Jonas, who has always been a part of my childhood, but I've never quite been reeled into the show in a way a Jonas fan would be. And I definitely think they could have done better. Like, if they really leaned into what it took to be a band in a more ugly sense, you know, like the obstacles, but it never really got the chance to grow or inevitably become the better show anyway. So it's not really like it had a chance. I definitely think the dynamic is different. Like, having the Jonas Brothers be actually related shows that, like, of course they're gonna have to make up after all these disagreements. But Big Time Rush feels like there's a lot more at stake because they're all just friends. You know, like, they could walk out of each other's lives at any minute, so their bond is a little bit more of a choice than the others. If anything, there's just so much for them to worry about, and that makes you, as an audience, really want to tune in and see what's next. But for the Jonas Brothers, it's not like it's a really big risk. You know, like, it's not like they're gonna one day move out and never see each other again. I mean, they had some scares in the episodes, but it just never really became a threat. But I think each show is good in its own right. But what do you guys think? Don't forget to tell me in the comments below whether you were a more Big Time Rush fan or a Jonas Brothers fan. And until next time, this is Johnny 2000s covering media, TV, movies, and so much more. I'll see you guys next time.